So here we are again. This is the Jack's Alpha League Week 3. This is the Sin City Slavers, who are a goblin team, versus the Lizardmen team. So here's the opening kickoff. We'll go ahead and change the camera angle and get you some good angle on the action there. The Lizardmen team, serial killers. For a moment there, forgetting the name of my own team. Here we have the secret weapon for the first half of the goblin side. Actually, they have two secret weapons. There's one here, the Bombardier. Boom Boom is his name, very aptly named. And another chainsaw massacrist, is that what it is? By the name of Jaws. So he's a goblin loony and a goblin bombardier. And here we have a goblin pogoer by the name of Rocket. The goblins and lizardmen are both really fast teams. They have movement of 6. The fastest player on the field, I believe, are the skinks with movement of 8. The pogoer has a movement of 7, which is pretty good. Pretty good match for the skinks. But in addition to the speed of the goblin team, they're not very strong. You can see strength 2 right there from old Tugget. But in addition to their speed, the goblins also have weapons. That's sort of the secret ingredient, I suppose, on the goblin team. Bombs, chainsaws. This guy here in the middle, Fanatic, by the name of Wrecker, is literally a wrecking ball. He carries a ball and chain. He moves randomly one square in one direction, annihilating everything in front of him. So he is a force to be reckoned with. You're welcome. So we're setting up defense here. The Lizardmen put skinks on the line, mainly because of Wrecker. With that wrecking ball coming through, it isn't worth it to sacrifice. The skinks are kicking off, so it isn't worth it to sacrifice the big blockers against a fast team when you're starting on defense. So the Sin City Slavers lost the toss, but the serial killers, Lizardmen, decided to kick so that they would receive in the second half. Weather's nice. Field is full. You'll see here the Goblins' defense, or excuse me, the Goblins' offense, because he's about to receive the ball. He's got the fast pogoer here in the back for the receive. He's got dodge. He's got leap. He's got very long legs, which increases his chance of catching or intercepting passes. Makes him a good kickoff receiver. And as we kick it off, he has a solid 4-man line here and the Bombardier right in the middle, so he can decide which side he wants to go to. The Bombardier has the option to not move. And if the Bombardier doesn't move, he can pass the bomb like a ball and blow things up. The skink here, Tehe of Pahwalaksa, got lucky in that the first time the ball and chain came swinging his way, it was merely a push. And then the ball and chain sort of bounced around a little bit. Troll got a push. That's also very helpful, considering those trolls are big. Mighty Blow, always hungry, regeneration. They also have the ability to throw teammate, which is how the goblins manage a passing game. You run a little goblin holding the ball up to the troll, and the troll sends him across the field. So 3 pushes. Those skinks got very lucky there at the start of their turn. And here we're going to see some organized offense. Goblins start building their cage. I'll speed things up a little bit so we can get those goblins in place for the finale. There it is with the pogo pickup. That will end the goblins' turn, as far as I remember. Putting the Bombardier, that's true, putting the Bombardier out there in position. So if the Lizardmen decide to try to attack that cage, they will have his explosives to reckon with. Blitz with the troll was an unfortunate loss due to really stupid. Trolls aren't smart, and so you have to roll to see if they follow your commands. That one did not. And so, due to the trolls really stupid, here it is, he needed a 4. There's a 50% chance that the trolls just pretty much ignore you. and rolling a 1, even with teammates around to repeat those commands and try to get that troll to move. He just had a moment of disloyalty, or really just sort of lack of sense, and decided not to move. So now it's up to the lizard men. Lizard men are thinking right now. I'll speed things up. There's your blitz on the cage. It's going to knock down and knock out one of the front men on the cage there. That'll give them a little bit of an entree to the cage, or at least lower players. The goblins have 4, and including the one they just got knocked out, they have 4 substitutes. The lizard men are coming into this game with 1 because of injuries sustained. Oh, I lied. The lizard men are coming into this game with 0 substitutes because of injuries sustained in the last game against the dwarves. If you watched that game, there was a player killed and another player put out for the next game. So the lizard men are starting this game having to buy 1 replacement player and already being a man down. So the goblins are fast. The lizard men, being a fast team, know what it's like to play against a fast team. So you see sort of soft defense here in a circle, trying to avoid. Oh, and there's the first tragedy of the game. The wrecking ball there took out dear Tehe of Pahualaksa. That was a 5-4-9 to break the armor, and then he rolled boxcars to kill the player. And because this is an early league, this is just the 3rd game of a league that started with base teams. There aren't any apothecaries. Our distance in skill wasn't enough to warrant or to afford an apothecary, so that player is dead, really most sincerely dead. So Tehe's season is over. Well, not only his season, Tehe is over. So that'll have to be a replacement player bought after this game. Interestingly enough, the way the league schedules work, this is the first of 2 games that the Sin City Slavers are going to play against the Serial Killers. They're back-to-back because of the 6-person round-robin league. This is one of 2-game doubleheader that these 2 teams will go against one another. Here comes the bomb. Interception failed, so that he didn't catch the bomb, but as you can see, that bomb does damage to everyone around it. So those 2 adjacent squares, that it's a 5+ for the success. Successfully hit. He rolled a 5 on both of those. So while the armor didn't break, both of those players have been knocked down, opening a gaping hole in the lizard men defense. That is the power of the bombardier. With 2 good rolls like that, defense is completely down up the sideline, and so you see the goblins getting max run right up there to form a new cage. Now with 3 lizard men behind. There are 3 lizard men here in the backfield that are going to be out of the play, or at least playing catch-up to the next play. There's a good dodge. Goblins, along with lizard men, are dodge-oriented characters, dodge and stunty, both skills that help you make those crucial dodge rolls when you're trying to get back into the thick of things after being hung out on the sideline. So Goblins bringing in some more defenses here on the side, trying to keep that Saurus at bay. And here come the Saurai. That's a defender stumbles, which does nothing to a player with dodge, so he dodges to step back to defend the Pogoer there with the ball. The Saurus is going to have a tackle zone on him, at least until the next turn, to try to keep that Pogoer from moving down the field. This is something I debated about, whether or not to use the Skink as a blitzer to try to knock the ball out of the Pogoer's hand. With the assistance of the Saurus, well, actually, there wouldn't be a whole lot of assistance of the Saurus because he's in the tackle zone of dribble there. But it was a 1-die block. I decided to take a risk to see if I could try to knock him down, even though he has dodge. It was a huge long shot play, but with the Bombardier, this is the first time I played against a Bombardier, when I realized what the Bombardier could do potentially to my defense, I panicked a little bit. I have 3 players in the backfield of the current play. I have 3 players basically in isolation. This skink over here, Tyra, will be able to get back into the action because of the skink's speed, but these 2 Sauruses are pretty much going to be out of it until the score, unless I can run them down around past the ball and chain player. So it wasn't time for complete desperation, but it was time to do something more than try to clog up the works, because I was running out of players to clog up the works. You see the Saurus gets up here, 2 tackle zones here on the ball carrier. That'll be 4 tackle zones total when he comes to try to move that ball. Mark the troll with the Saurus there because I'm scared. I was scared of that troll blitzing this front Saurus. These 3 players for the Lizardmen are the most important players on the field right now because they are the ones that are keeping him from the end zone. There's a skink back here in the backfield that was able to run around. I was saying those skinks are going to have a hard time. Those 3 players are going to have a hard time getting into the play. That was the best I could do with them. I rolled a both down result with the Saurus that was on the ball carrier. Decided to accept it because it was one of the last moves I was going to make for the turn in a both down result, as you can see, because the pogoer doesn't dodge away from that. The both down means that the Saurus takes him down with him, Bach of the Moon, being able to block the ball carrier there and get the ball out. So this will be a bit of a delay tactic while the Goblins are trying to figure out how to get the ball back in their hands. With this skink over here on the sideline, the ball's standing there with 2 tackle zones on it. It makes it a little harder to pick up. Ball and chain goes spinning again, finally gets his chance to attack Tyra, who tried to run back into the play and successfully knocks him down onto the field. So pretty much with the limited movement of having to get up, getting back here in the backfield will be all that Tyra will be able to do. The troll, interestingly, pushes the Saurus back and stays out of the thick of things. Here comes the Bombardier, taking out one of the tackle zones on the ball. This is the danger of the Bombardier I was talking about earlier. Took out 2 players the play before. The Goblins decided to leave him in the backfield and pitch that bomb to try to prevent or try to knock the tackle zones off the ball. And so one successfully done. It was a perfect launch into the square that didn't have the ball in it so that he didn't move the ball, but taking out one of the tackle zones. And then you see the blitzing Goblin there, Skittle, coming to knock the second tackle zone off the ball by getting the skink out of the way. And the pogoer, Rocket, is now again in possession of the ball. So being able to tackle that player and get the ball out of his hands was successfully delayed, but delayed 1 turn because, again, he has the ball and is deciding that the right-hand side of the field, from the camera angle here, the right-hand side of the field was a little too clogged, and so the pogoer is going to retreat a little bit. Because of how committed the Lizardmen are to the right-hand side of the field, it looks like he's planning on making a run around left, or at least a run through the middle. With the 2 trolls marking the 1 Saurus in the middle of the field, it shouldn't be difficult to get to midfield, especially now if he's able to knock that beast down, which he does. So pretty solid defense at midfield, and you see the Lizardmen are way overcommitted to the right. That gives him an angle for where he moves next. So the Lizardmen get to react. Saurus gets up, and not really knowing which way he's planning to go at this point. The Lizardmen spend some time in thought. Blitz there on the front Goblin. He dodges out of the way, and the blitzer comes around the other end to try to clog up the middle. There's ample defense down there on the back right. The Saurus and the 2 skinks would not let him advance any further than he did last turn. And so to keep some sort of in-run around, the Lizardmen blitz that first Goblin and are now clogging up the works directly in front of the Goblins. You'll see that defense form up a little more. Up comes the Saurus, to mark the goblin. Successful dodge to get that player away from the ball and chain. That ball and chain is dangerous. So having him so far downfield keeps him moderately uninvolved in the next play. Saurus gets up in front of the trolls just so that they can't walk around the field with reckless abandon. One of them's going to have to hit him at least before they start getting their move on. Then one die block there at the end to see if the lizardmen could get a tackle zone on the ball, but that was a failure. So actually that was a failed dodge roll to try to get a tackle zone on the ball, trying to dodge away. Actually, that doesn't get a tackle zone on the ball. That was trying to get the skink out of danger. Looking at that play again, there were two goblins here in the front that would have had free blocks on the skink, and skinks are small and squishy. So that wasn't trying to do a really risky block. That was actually trying to back that skink up on. And here comes that in-run around that I was worried about earlier, because as you can see, there are only two lizardmen that are legitimately in the play right now. All the others have been committed to the right-hand side of the field, and with the ball carrier almost even with half of the lizardmen team, it's going to be a big thing. Use of a reroll there. Wrecker was going for it to try to get one more chance to knock down Tyra. Went for it, failed, and instead of taking the knockdown, which would be a knockout, if the ball and chain player's ever knocked down, they're knocked out. That's one of the weaknesses of the player. So if that would be a knockdown, that would have lost him. So you can understand the reroll, spinning the reroll on the go for it. So here comes the cage on the left-hand side of the field to provide some cover for the ball carrier's new position. The bombardier moves up. That turnover was Goblin trying to make dodge rolls around the Sarai to rejoin that play. That meant this last troll here didn't get to move. The first troll failed his really stupid roll, and so sort of sits there with an idiotic grin on his face watching the play develop and not moving anywhere. So here the lizardmen go, contemplating blitz, and because of where this play has run, this puts the ball and chain player much closer back into the thick of things, and with a higher concentration of players coming his way, due to the fact that the ball's headed that way, and most of the lizardmen are over on the right-hand side of the field. They're going to have to go by him to get involved to try to prevent this touchdown. The lizardmen decide to go ahead and make a run at him. He's got strength of 7, which means it's going to take a whole lot of lizardmen. And so still, you see with the blitz, checking out what the block dice will be, contemplating whether or not that's going to happen. And here comes the blitz. Decided with 4 rerolls left, it was worth a chance. Defender stumbles, means that he's going to be knocked down, and for the ball and chain would mean knocked out. However, breaking the armor of the player, then that means the injury roll was a double 5, and then which is injured, and then the roll on the injury table was dead. So as you just saw with that graphic, that's going to be a devastating loss for the Goblins. Not for this possession, really. It will make it harder to score this possession, but the ball and chain would have been gone at the end of the possession anyway, because of the secret weapon flaw that the ball and chain has that would prevent him from staying in the game after this possession. But a dead player, just like you saw with the skink earlier, this is too early in the season to avoid apothecaries. So the skink being the least expensive of the lizardmen players, 3 of them and a Saurus just ganged up to take out a rather expensive goblin player. That's going to be detrimental for the rest of the season as the Goblins try to figure out how to save up to replace that player. There's still a chainsaw player on the sideline. You'll see him come in the next possession. here we are crowding the ball, trying to make sure. With a fast team like the Goblins, you take the injuries or the knockouts where you can get them, and just try to clog them up. To my knowledge, the Pogoer isn't a player that can be thrown, so as long as the ball's in his hand, there isn't a whole lot of a need for downfield coverage, worried about the throw by the Trolls. And with them failing really stupid rolls like that, the Trolls have been less of a factor. There's a double really stupid fail. So the Goblins have got to be frustrated with that. This was the big move the ball turn, and both Trolls checked out of the play. So there's a block by Zigzag, who knocks a tackle zone off the ball carrier, and Loopy there getting up off the ground. There's the blitz on the Saurus to try to open up a lane to run the ball a little bit further down the field. Though maybe it's also trying to concentrate the Lizard Men to get ready for a Bombardier attack. Because as you can see here in the backfield, and here it comes. There's the Bombardier attack. But it looked like the Bombardier attack was either... Oh, that was a failed pass. So inaccurate pass meant the ball was not headed where the Bombardier was intending. It works like a pass. So it's a 4 required, and then the 3 was the roll, which made for an inaccurate pass, which made for a chance to knock down Tehe back here, but the knockdown roll failed. So backing up a little bit with the Pogoer to try to keep the Lizard Men from getting an easy attack on the ball carrier for this next turn. So here we go with the Lizard Men. Lizard Men thinking. We'll rush up to thinking time. No need for you to sit and wonder what we're going to do.
The madly sadistic chainsaw swinging star.
Oh, he's still ready to hire himself out, even if it means siding Lizard Men's heads and scales, as he always complains, damage his chainsaw, all for the love of sport.
5 turns into the half now. Here comes Skinks. Those are unblocked because the Trolls are really stupid. Even though one was standing, you saw the Troll turn to face the Saurus. Even though one was standing, he being really stupid, he doesn't affect, you don't have to dodge away from him. Lizard Men blitz down the Bombardier because if he has to get up, getting up precludes his ability to bomb that turn, because the bomb can only be launched as the full turn action of the Bombardier. So with that knockdown, even though it was a both down, it cost the Lizard Men the ability to close in on the ball. It did prevent the Bombardier from attacking that cluster of players like he tried to do last turn. The downside is that decision was made early and came to a bad end, even though it was a 2-die block. It came to a bad end because both down or pushed was the option. Lizardmen chose both down, and as you can see, what it does is really overcommits to the left-hand side of the field, and this is where that Goblin speed comes in. Huge speed, gets down here in the open field, and then is able to run some other Goblins around. We'll speed that up. Able to run some other Goblins around, including the Troll, to block anybody from trying to get into this next play. So, right-hand side of the field completely clear from the hash marks over on the way to the end zone. So the Lizard Men, there's the last reroll of the half as Tugget failed his go for it roll, and the reroll meant that Tugget was able to get there and close off the cage. So the Lizard Men get to figure out what they're going to do here and make a grievous error, deciding to try a 1-die block against the Bombardier. I don't know if you can tell whether or not the Bombardier has scared the Lizard Men, but I sure can. Failing the 1-die block, getting attacker down, KO, that player's out of the game, at least for the half. He's got a roll to come back. And that leaves that right-hand side of the field completely open. It couldn't be a 1-turn score because he didn't have the movement. He didn't bother going for it because now that he's got there within 1 turn of scoring, the Lizard Men can only hope to chase him. This is all but a touchdown. with 1 turn left to go in the half, and the Lizardmen not going to be able to do anything but maybe put a tackle zone on him. But as you can see, that getting a tackle zone on him is going to be progressively more difficult, because since the Lizardmen wasted that first move 1 die block against the Bombardier, he's able to move everyone else into position. There's the Troll with the Mighty Blows stunning that skink. That skink won't even be participating in the next play. And that skink was the one most likely, closest movement-wise, most likely to get a tackle zone on the ball carrier, to require at least a dodge roll before the score at the end of the turn. There's the Bombardier hitting the cluster of players, which was exactly the fear of last turn. And interestingly enough, the one success was on the player that was already down. And because there was an attack on an already downed player, I don't know if that's a bug or actually a peculiar rule of the game, but it actually changed that skink from stunned to down. Because once the bomb successfully attacked the skink, the bomb then failed to break the armor, which changed the status of the player. So I'd be interested in reviewing the living rulebook to see if that's an actual thing, or if that's just an error in the game, where in the video game where there's a toggle of status because there's an attack on a prone player. That would be something interesting to research. So Lizardmen, it's now their turn. You can see blitzing the Goblin blocker there with the Saurus to try to get him out of the way. I need as few tackle zones in between me and the ball if we're going to have any chance whatsoever of trying to stop this touchdown. And this thinking period here is just trying to experiment with all the possible pathing through those defenders to try to get on the ball carrier. There's not a way to blitz it, and with an attempt of just putting a tackle zone on him, the first dodge roll failed, effectively ending any possibility that the Lizardmen would prevent that touchdown. So Pogoer goes in, does his little horsey victory dance thing. Pretty cute. There's the dead ball and chain. And the Goblins roll to wake up their 1 knocked out player, which means they now have 3 substitutes. There's the 1 dead skink and the knocked out skink that the roll does not wake up. So the Lizardmen are going to be starting the next possession, which is just the last possession of this half, 1 player down. So we'll speed through this. This is mainly arranging things for the kickoff. The kickoff happens. As you can see, the Lizardmen are going to be on offense, and so it's got to be a 1-turn score, which isn't really going to be possible, considering the Goblins are probably going to kick it back into the far back of the field. It is possible if a skink were moved further in, but as you can see, the Lizardmen are arranging themselves for max injury, or max clearance on the field, so that there's good blocking and the potential of taking out as many players as possible before the next half starts. The Lizardmen really need something here. And things didn't go their way. I mean, it did go their way very much so in the kickoff roll. Pitch invasion was the crowd coming in and knocking out several Goblin players. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 Goblin players stunned on the field. But unfortunately, that means the Lizardmen picked the wrong side of the field to defend. The Goblin players went down on the other side of the field. And so this is the Lizardmen looking to see if a 1-turn score is possible. It's not going to be, as you can see. Even with the stunned players, the Lizardmen only have this one play. So I'm running these players down the field just for fun. There's a pass, just on the off chance that a player might get some star player points. And so since Edohimundi was able to successfully make that pass, that'll get him a star player point. It was no big deal if he wasn't able to do it because it was the last possession of the half. So even with go for it, a score was not possible, so it didn't make sense to attempt the go for it with the possibility of failing and injuring that player. So injuring other players would be the only remaining point of this possession, and you'll see that happens. There are tackle zones coming up, so that since the other two players on the line for the Goblins are down, that gives the Lizardmen a chance to try to hurt that player and blocking him down the line. The choice now is whether or not to try to foul him and chance getting booted from the game. But already being a man down, that wouldn't be smart for the Lizardmen, and so they're going to end their turn. And oh no, there's going to be a blitz. There hasn't been a blitz used yet. But as you can see, instead of fouling the troll, it's a go for it, a blitz with a go for it to try to injure another goblin. The go for it fails. That player doesn't suffer a serious injury because of it. And that was a sort of mixed. There's the bombardier off the pitch for the secret weapon flaw. But the go for it did risk the health and life of the Saurus, but it ended up not being bad. So could be stupid. Could have been stupid. Wasn't too terribly. The skink wakes up, which will allow the second half. The Lizardmen will be able to field 10 players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. So the Lizardmen are 1 man down. My count was good. 1 man down for this series going on offense. And so the Goblins are going to be kicking. You can see their defense. They chose the 4-man line up here to make things hard on the Lizardmen line. With those trolls, they're really strong. This is strength of 5, but they also have guard. They have mighty blow. Would be bad news. So the Lizardmen try to get some matchup with them up there without endangering too many of their players. If I remember correctly. Nope, Skink's on the line. So what this does, with a 4-man line committed, and then the Saurus in the middle with only the two, with Skittle and Dribble, these two goblins on him, the Saurus is stronger than those. And so it'll be strength 2 versus strength 4. That would be -2 block dice. With an assist, that would be 1 negative block die for either one of these guys. That Saurus isn't in major danger. These skinks are in danger because of the trolls. But again, this is to try to be able to block down field. I need these Sauruses free to block down field so that these quick, fast, and in a hurry little skinks can try to equalize this game. I'm down 1 touchdown to 0 and haven't had a single turn with the ball in my hand yet. So Chainsaw McGee, well, there was the single turn at the end of last half with the ball in my hand, but as you saw, that didn't go much anywhere. This was a surprise to me. Chainsaw McGee kicks the crap out of this ball. It ends up landing in the end zone. And, normal football rules and all that, landing in the opposition end zone would be a touchback. A touchback in Blood Bowl means handing the ball to a player of your choice. However, apparently, if the ball bounces into the end zone of the players who are about to possess the ball, that does not count as out of bounds. So the Lizardmen have to begin this turn picking up the ball from their own end zone. This is as far back as the ball could possibly be from the Lizardmen scoring. Saurus pushes the Goblin off here. Probably a good, well, maybe a slight indication of which side that the Lizardmen prefer to run down the field on. But it's not really going to matter a whole lot because they're not running down the field this turn. With a good defense established at the line and a pickup there in the end zone and no threat whatsoever from the Goblins in the backfield, Lizardmen decided to pick up the ball out of the end zone, run to the end of that Skink's movement, and to try to move the ball quickly with a pass. That would also result in star player points if that was achieved. The pass failed, which means the ball still moved further down the field. The Lizardmen are just going to have to make a pickup next turn. So, simple turn here from the Goblins. They didn't have a whole lot to do. They they dodge away from the Saurus, get column defense here, which is a real draw into the center of the field. This part of the field is completely open. The Lizardmen could run right through the center with reckless abandon, and that's probably the Goblins' plan, because if they run right through the center with reckless abandon, that puts this troll and both Goblins on the rear side of the play, and his entire rest of the team on the front side of the play with a chainsaw right up the middle. So lizardmen are going to run and pick up the ball here. And decide it will slow them down, but decide not to run the ball right through the center. Going to run the ball up and face one half of this line defense instead of both. It'll take these guys some effort to get into the play. And so, not inviting the retribution of the entirety of the Goblin team, the Lizardmen are going to take the ball, try to take the ball at least up the left-hand side of the field. Stopping there just inside the left hash mark and forming a cage of their own against that troll. The skink, the lead skink, is going to be in real trouble up against the troll, but with the assistance of some of the lizard men, it should make it less frightening a prospect. So we'll speed things up as the lizard men finish forming their cage. You can see they're running some players down the field in indication of where the next cage might start, and get lucky with the defender stumbles on the blitz to push the troll away. So that troll's going to need a dodge and a blitz next turn if he's going to do anything significant to the cage. Final skink dodges away from the troll, and a cage with the left-hand side, not much to worry about, with a right-hand side barrier, not much to worry about on the left-hand side because all the goblins are on the right and in front of the lizardmen cage. You can see a couple players downfield here ready to receive a pass or be the beginnings of the next cage that the lizardmen are going to form downfield trying to run the ball. Goblins, that is not a fact that's lost on the goblins, so they move up to block those players, and Chainsaw McGee there with the blitz stuns that player, which is good. That was double twos on the injury roll. Needed that. So then I'm not having more players sent off the field, although of course he's out for the next play. In come the rest of the goblins with two in the backfield just in case the lizardmen decide to try something crazy like a pass. You'll have two in the backfield to blitz down a scoring attempt. So with the beginnings of a run up the left-hand side of the field, the lizardmen opt to do an in-run around. The goblins have committed to the left-hand side of the field because the lizardmen are demonstrating pretty clearly that that's the direction they're headed, and to be honest with you, that is exactly the direction I was thinking of heading. But then seeing the right-hand side of the field open with that one dodge, which was a very, very crucial roll, which is why you saw me use a re-roll on it. He failed. He rolled a 1 on the initial dodge roll, but on the re-roll, he got a 6, getting the ball carrier out into the open field. Now the challenge is getting the rest of the players around there to defend him. So this initial block, defender stumbles, that'll get the troll tackle zone off and free up those lanes for the Saurus to get through there to form a cage. That was a go-for-it roll because it was worth it to be able to defend the ball player from the goblin that stands there in front of him. Skinks have plenty of movement. They're going to be able to get up there and get into the action. So, again, speeding things up. There's the one blitz. That was unfortunately defender stumbles with a dodge, which means he doesn't go down, but that does put all of those players in the tackle zone of the Saurus. He'll be easy to knock down next turn, but it means that they'll have to spend a turn knocking him down, probably with Chainsaw McGee, which will keep him out of the next play and away from the ball carrier. That was my chief concern. So, marking 3 players, Skink makes the dodge roll to mark the pogoer, so that he's either got a tackle or dodge to get, or block or dodge to get away from the Skink. That leaves one player unmarked in the goblin backfield. Just nobody had enough movement to get down there to mark zigzag. So he's going to get a shot at the ball carrier. If he's got enough movement to get around there, he's certainly going to get a shot at the edge of the cage. There was the smart move of not using the chainsaw to knock the Saurus down. It freed up the tackle zone from the Saurus, and so now you see he's got blockers on the corners of the cage, and a blocker downfield, and then there comes Chainsaw McGee getting a knockout for the front of the cage. That seriously weakens the Lizardman cage, and will mean that something's got to happen on this turn. This cannot be a simple cage move turn because the goblins have got too much defense in front of the action. And the pogoer actually does, with the assist of another goblin. You saw in the top left-hand corner of your screen there, the pogoer did block the skink, but he got a double push. So nothing out of that, but moving the skink and the pogoer a little bit upfield. So here the Lizardmen are thinking. You'll see what happens here when this Saurus gets a defender down and is able to knock out that goblin. That completely frees up a running lane that, with a couple of go-for-its, that skink could potentially score. And with all the defense headed that way and a chainsaw rumbling and smoking a mere 10 yards from the ball, the Lizardmen are not going to risk blocks. That's the thought that's going on right here. Do you risk the block and potentially lose the opportunity to score, or do you just save the reroll that you have? 4 rerolls left in the half, but you only 1 reroll usable per turn. Do you save the reroll for this turn and try to score to even up the game, even leaving 5 more turns, 5 more turns for the rest of the game? There isn't any attacking going on. What you see going on the left-hand side of the field are the Lizardmen moving up in case something goes wrong. There is a block. That was a 2-die block. It could have cost the reroll. Had that cost the reroll, that would have been a major mistake on the Lizardmen. That was an attempt to injure a player that was ill-advised with the opportunity to score. But the Lizardmen got lucky, didn't have to suffer from it. Got a push as opposed to a both down. There, the other Saurus comes in case something goes wrong. But here you see the skink making the one necessary go-for-it roll successfully. Didn't even have to burn the reroll, and scoring to tie up the ball. That'll be some star player points for that skink, and the one knocked out goblin wakes up. See what we have in the Lizard, still dead player, and the one knocked out skink does not wake up, which will mean that the Lizardmen will be 2 men down for this possession by the goblins. So that score was by Tehe, and because Tehe made the score, he's now got sufficient points to level up. Those star player points, that he was at 5, and then the +3 gives him 8 of 6, which means if he survives this game, he will be level 2 going into the next game. That will be the first player that the Lizardmen have been able to level up. You see Za here is also very close to a level. But that'll be the first player that the Lizardmen have been able to level up. And so Tehe is a very valuable player to preserve through the course of this game. Here we go with the Goblins' possession. They are setting up their defense. We'll go ahead and speed through this setup. Not going to be fooled again, I suppose. They're putting a bunch of them on the line so that they can start. They're putting everybody on the line. This was the defense that the Goblins had last turn, last possession as well, so that the ball gets down there to the pogoer, who's got a lot of movement, and the Goblin line has an opportunity to open up the field. You'll see through the course of this possession there are disadvantages to that setup. Quick Snap was the kickoff event, which, even worse news for the Lizardmen, meant that the team that's about to possess the ball, the receiving team, gets to move 1 square with every player on the field. Quick Snap just meant that the soon-to-be offense receiving team was quick on the snap and could get their players in position as soon as the ball was snapped before the kicking team can react. So build a 3-man cage around both of the lead skinks and a 2-man cage around the bottom one, getting some movement upfield for the Goblins before the ball even lands. The ball lands, both skinks take it on the chin, and this is how the Goblin player is going to leave it. The Pogoer fails this pickup roll. He puts one downfield as a potential receiver or as a potential downfield blocker. The Goblins can pass, but normally what they do is use the Trolls to throw players. The Troll will throw a player down the field if the player drops the ball, because the player has to make an agility roll on landing. If the player drops the ball, that could mean another potential ball carrier down close to the score. Put some people downfield, back upfield as blockers, and then unfortunately the Pogoer fails the pickup roll. So the ball's backwards one square down the field as the Lizard men get to take their turn. And this is where I was saying you may see the disadvantage to that defensive setup. It's a very aggressive defensive setup. And being the Lizard men at this point with a tie game, with only 4 turns left in the ball that far in the back of the field, I decided to answer a very aggressive initial offense by playing a very aggressive defense. It takes me a second to think about it, but working up my courage, I decide, let's go for it. With the Troll really stupid, that Saurus is able to blitz the one blocker that he has on him, the one Goblin that he had tackle zone on him, blitz him down, and then run downfield. And so what you're going to see right here is and with the Troll being really stupid, you don't have to dodge him. He's not paying attention to the play. And so what you're seeing is the Lizard men answering a really aggressive offense with an equally aggressive defense. This is going to leave half the Goblin team out of the play when it comes to picking up that ball. And there's a knockout over here. Saurus just knocked out one of the edge defenders for the Goblins, which is going to give the Lizard men even further opportunity to run downfield. That was sort of out of the play. That's not going to be real significant. One less player. It helps even the score player-wise, and it also helps open that lane up for the Skink to run around. You saw him run around the backside of the Saurus. The Skinks just have enough movement to start being a significant contribution to the play, even running around other players, other clusters of players. So, really aggressive. This lets him behind me almost completely. There are 2 Skinks on the ground, 2 Sauruses, one of which is too far on the right-hand side of field and out of play. Now there's only 1 Saurus in the backfield. A thrown player or a successful pass in this formation would be a tragedy for the Lizard men. But they're taking a risk and banking on that not happening. And as you can see, it is the vast majority, all but 2 of the Lizard men's teams. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 7 Lizard man players versus 3 Goblin players. Everybody else on the Goblin team are stuck here behind the action. So unless there's some razzle-dazzle in picking up this ball and getting away from the Lizard men, the Goblins are going to be chasing this play. And here's their turn where they get to decide how they're going to handle that. Goblin's getting up and marking the Skink. There comes the Troll, past a really stupid roll, which is good for him, and that marks 2 defenders. So those defenders are either going to have to block the Troll, which is hard because those Trolls are big men, or they're going to have to dodge away, which Sauruses have very poor dodge, so that wouldn't happen. The Skink may dodge away, but the rest of them no. This Troll gets the blitz declared on him and then fails the really stupid roll. And that's unfortunate because that wastes the blitz for the turn. You have to declare the blitz before the really stupid roll happens, which risks the blitz with the big guys like the Trolls. Had that succeeded, it would have done a lot more to the Lizard men attackers there. But having lost the blitz and the Troll out of the play is going to make it a difficult time for the Goblins. So you see they're marking players and depending on this Pogoer to pick up this ball and get it over here by the other defenders so that he doesn't get massacred. And even using This is the tragedy for the Goblins and this possession, even using the reroll, because they had the reroll left, chose not to use it earlier. Fails the pickup roll with a 3, needing a 4, burns the reroll, and then rolls a 1. So the Goblins fail that pickup roll and leave the ball virtually undefended. There's one tackle zone on the ball, but as you can see, Lizardmen used the Saurus furthest downfield, who was unmarked, so he was free to move. Blitzes down the Pogoer, and the Lizardmen are going to form a cage around the ball before they make the pickup attempt. Well, a small cage around the ball. At least have a couple of defenders on it. They failed a pickup attempt. That was good old Tehe, star player there. The one that just scored the last touchdown. He seems to be the one in the middle of all the action. That's going to be a turnover, which is unfortunate because it means these Goblins here are all going to have a chance to come down and crowd the play. Maybe should have waited to try to do that pickup so that the Lizardmen can get some better defense on the ball. Sort of a two-sided cage. This is the danger of having the cage like that. So you see the Goblin come in for an assist, and then the Goblin come in with the blitz. Unfortunately, it was attacker down or defender stumbles. So defender stumbles on a skink with dodge, means that he doesn't go down, he's able to dodge, and then the follow was a smart move by the Goblins to put a tackle zone on the ball in case the Lizardmen try to pick it up on the next possession. So they get to figure out what they're going to do for the rest of this turn to try to get, there's the Pogoer getting up, making the dodge roll, failing the pickup roll, which was a good idea if he had made the pickup roll and potentially dodged away. Failed the pickup roll, again burning a reroll. That was a double attempt at a pickup roll. He made the dodge roll without problem and the go for it roll without a problem. But when Rocket tried the pickup, he rolled a 3 because of the tackle zone on the ball, re-rolled, and then rolled another 3 because of the tackle zone on the ball. Meaning that the Lizardmen now have, there's a cluster here on the field, but the Lizardmen now have a chance of being able to pick up that ball with this skink. That would be a Dohimundi here up the field. There is one tackle zone on the ball from the Pogoer, and so the Lizardmen are going to have to figure out how they deal with that before a Dohimundi comes down here and tries to pick the thing up. And we'll see what they do. There's some thinking here, because if the Lizardmen are able to successfully pick this ball up and get away, this is turn 15 for the Lizardmen, so there are only 3 more turns left for the Goblins. If there's a successful score back here with this scrum for the ball, this will potentially mean a win for the Lizardmen. Using the re-roll to pick up the ball now means he does not have a re-roll for a go-for-it roll or a dodge roll if he wants to try to score right here. 2 re-rolls left in the half, but only 1 usable per turn. He got a 3, needing a 4 to pick that up because of the tackle zone. Was able to roll it and got a 5. And there you see, fortunately made the dodge roll without the re-roll necessary. And the Lizardmen score on that possession to go up 2-1 with only 3 turns left in the game for the Goblins. They do get a player back. Knocked out player comes conscious again. That dead player's never coming back, poor little guy. And then the roll did not wake up the Lizardmen, so the Lizardmen still remain 2 players down for the next kickoff. Unfortunately, the replay doesn't save the banter, because there was some discussion about the 1-die block mistake earlier that let the Goblins score, and then a little bit of discussion there about how ridiculous that was to burn the reroll on the pickup, make the pickup, and then not need the reroll for the dodge roll. There was a dodge and a go for it required. You can see that here in the log now. Roll the 5 on the dodge, plus the skinks have dodge, so that was a 6 needing a 4. 6 on 4 was a success for the dodge roll, and then rolled a 2, barely making the roll necessary for the go for it roll to put him in the end zone to go up by 1. So they're setting up here. I can tell you what I'm doing right now with only 2 turns left in the game is building a bit of a soft defense to make sure nobody gets behind us, to make sure nobody gets around them. With only 2 turns, it's going to take some Herculean effort by the Goblins to score to tie the game up, which would end the game in a tie. And so you're about to see the Goblins do exactly that. High kick is the kickoff event, which allows the Goblins to put a player directly under the ball. I got a really good kickoff roll that meant the ball was in the very, very back of their field. The high kick meant that the pogoer could get directly under the ball. He successfully caught it, brought it up, and successfully handed it off here to Goob. And then this push right here gets the tackle zone off this troll, because as you're about to see, this troll is about to throw Goob, or attempt to throw Goob, and that is another tragic happening for the Goblins. Always Hungry, he passes the really stupid roll. Always Hungry is a flaw of the trolls that will make a troll attempt to eat a player he's going to throw. He failed the Always Hungry roll, and failing the Always Hungry roll meant that he tried to eat his own player. He failed the Devour teammate, and then... he passed the Always Hungry roll. But then he failed the Throw teammate and fumbled the player. The Goblins very smartly tried to use the re-roll, but you have to make a loner roll, because loner is another one of the attributes on the troll. And with loner, if you fail the loner roll, you lose the re-roll and don't get to make the re-roll. And so failing the loner roll, there's only a 50% chance of passing the loner roll. He flipped the coin and lost. So he lost the re-roll, but did not get to re-roll the pass. So Goob had to make an agility roll to land and rolled a 6, so he landed without dropping the ball. But then, as I've been talking, you can see the only option then was to do a couple of push-offs or try to injure some players, because this is going to be a double header for the Goblins before the end of the game, because that was the chance they took to have the possibility to do a 2-turn score to tie the game up. So barring any crazy happening, the next turn the Lizard Men are going to have this one, the first of the double header between the Sin City Slavers and the Serial Killers. This completely openly admit is the Lizard Men trying to do as much damage to the Goblin team, first to make sure they don't get any crazy run play going to tie the game up. That's what these Lizard Men in the backfield are doing. A little bit of soft defense in case he's got a trick up his sleeve that I didn't think of, and trying to do whatever damage I can, knowing that I have to play this team next. Getting the skinks out of the way to try to prevent him from doing much damage before we come in for the doubleheader. And there's a knockout by the troll. He'll get some players around to try to open up a running lane, but you can, as you'll see here, it's now just seeing who he can hurt, similarly to what the Lizard Men were doing the last turn, just to see if he can put some players out for the next game. That's putting an additional tackle zone on the Saurus for the troll to try to do some damage there, because the throwing of the player isn't going to work this turn. So there's the blitz on the Saurus to try to inflict as much damage as possible. He just pushes him back. That was a 1-die block that he got a push on. And there, I knew there was a moment where he tried to eat. He was trying to throw the teammate again, successfully picked him up, or passed the really stupid roll, then failed the Always Hungry roll, which you saw in motion there. The troll tried to eat the player. Passed the eat the player roll, which meant the player was not eaten. If a player is successfully eaten by a troll, that player dies, and the team loses the ball and a turnover. But he So he fails the eat it roll. Troll tries to eat the player, unsuccessfully tries to eat the player, but that's the turnover for the end of the turn, and that made the end of the game. So an interesting game there. A couple of attempts to throw goblin players, and 2 player deaths we have here in week 2, and week 3, and then we'll see how the second half of the doubleheader goes. Good luck to all the other Jacks Alpha League teams.